Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another session of Parallel Barkings. My name is Larry Backer, Woof Woof, and I'm here with my puppy,
Ariana Backer, bark, 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 bark.
and today we're going to do an ode to spring. It's a spring kind of day, except it's cold here. We are going to talk about the body, because we've been doing all of this esoteric junk, all of this conceptual stuff that it's just, oh my God, at some point, you just get so detached from your body. So we're going back to the body. And there are two stories, and I don't mean my body, I mean all y'all's body. We're going to talk about our bodies. Have your mirrors out, start looking, because in fact, we are nothing more than our bodies, and everything else that we've done, the entirety of human civilization is built around our issues with our bodies.
Yes. Strip us down bare.
So where does all of this highfalutin stuff come? It comes from two articles that just piqued my interest. One of them involves macLYON, which is the art museum in Lyon, France, that has started an exhibition. It's part of a wider thing. We're going to talk about that in a minute, but just very briefly, it's an exhibition that requires people who want to go to see it to strip naked. They then have, I think, about 90 minutes to walk through the exhibition about the body, clothed and unclothed, its semiotics, its signification, its symbolism. And then they can come out and they can have I think they have like a glass of wine or a drink of your choice, and they talk about the experience, which is also part of the art. And then the experiences are then put together. And this is the first of a couple, I think they said it's the first of two acts, ACTS, in which we confront the body in particular ways. In this case, in its engagement with art, I suppose, but since art has become, like the academics, more public intellectual than sensual, this may be an ironic, I mean, this is the 21st century, after all, we're nothing if not ironic, an ironic take on the body, that even when we're confronted with our own corporeal nudity, we run screaming from it into esoterica, into semiotics, into that Platonic cave where we're much more comforted with the distorted images that we have. Anyway, so that's number one, and we'll talk about that. Number two is actually my personal favorite because I love law stuff. A tenant, a commercial tenant in a German building, sued to reduce the rent because they were absolutely appalled that the landlord was nude sunbathing in the interior courtyard. As it turns out, ultimately they won, but they did not win because they were
seeking.
They had seen the nude body. They won because of residential noise in the neighborhood that made work hard. The reason they lost, as it turns out, was apparently you literally had to put your entire body out the window and then turn around so that you can catch a glimpse of this dude sunbathing. And the court was just not impressed. Well, they were impressed, I guess, with the amount of income.
That takes a lot of effort.
On the other hand, it beats playing solitaire on your machine when the boss comes, right? Now you're doing something more energetic when you want to waste time at the office.
It's healthy for you to get up and do some physical exercise.
Do some physical exercise,
while you are peeping.
But you can't, but you don't have that extra benefit of also reducing your rent.
Your rent.
Right, as a consequence of your exertion. So the two of them are actually quite interesting takes on the body. So you've got a body, Ariana.
I do. Thank you. Thank you.
Right.
We do have bodies.
How do you approach this? I was going to do something fake or philosophical, but just fill in whatever multisyllabic word you want to put in there. Reaction.
I mean, I honestly want to go.
Wait. You could have been dishonest instead of telling us you're honest. Now I'm going to believe you're dishonest.
Oh, well, I dishonestly want, I mean, this probably is more appropriate. I dishonestly want to go to the art exhibit so I can view everybody else's reactions.
Well, it's not clear. I couldn't tell whether there were more than one person allowed in. And I
Oh,
think
that's no, because I think
it's got to
part of
be.
the point of the exhibit was to figure out how you interact with other bodies.
So the point is just, well, why don't you just go to a naturalist
Totally
club, and
makes
that way you can just
that makes
look
sense.
at all
Okay.
of your natural stuff.
Interesting.
I mean, it makes far more sense if you're going to do that, and it costs you 11 euro to do this. Oh, okay, so the whole point is so that you can get together with a bunch of other nudies while you're pretending to look at art that apparently you're not looking at, and then you go and you have a glass of wine or some other cold beverage or maybe a hot beverage, and you pretend to talk about the art you weren't watching because you were watching this enormously interesting person whose body type does not conform to your ideal, but it caused you to permanently encase that memory in your brain for all time.
And why not? I
Right.
mean, it says,
But you know, I would do it. I would absolutely do it.
I mean, I feel like putting people putting themselves, I don't know how many people would be willing to do this. Maybe I'm sure it's different. And
Wait, we're in the West.
I know that's what I'm saying. That's
Market,
what I'm sure it's
markets come
different.
in.
I'm sure it's absolutely different in Europe.
Well,
But
no, but they're reaching out. No, it's even worse than that. They're reaching out. There's actually dollars, besides it costing 11 euro to get in,
oh
which
my
is
God.
not bad for a museum, right? But there's some mention in the coverage of this that what they're trying to do is reach out to the naturalist communities in Europe because they tend to be overlooked when museums and other things put on cultural events, and this may be a way to draw them in there. We're just going to destroy the meaning of the word natural, bring them into their natural environment so that they can naturally expose themselves to the nature of the body,
Yeah,
along with a bunch of gawkers.
you're right. I mean, part of naturists tend to stay, quote, out of view so as not to cause panic in politer society.
But it's fabulously fun. So I'm thinking, yeah, you'd have a bunch of like experienced tourists like us when we do anything for experience, and getting naked in front of a bunch of other people is kind of vanilla. But hey, it's new and different. But there are all kinds of other permutations and combinations. Yeah, the naturalists will go and see it, and they may have special tours. But that's not even vanilla. It doesn't even become ice cream. But more interesting. So what happens when your 12, 13, and 14-year-old nieces and nephews say, wow, this is a cool way to spend the afternoon? Does mom and dad say? That's the art exhibit, is watching mom and dad either go, cool, let's all go as a family, and then the kids say, mom, dad, actually, I'd love to see all kinds of nudies, but with two exceptions. One is you, dad, and one is you, mom. And even worse, because this is what I would do, I would say, let's bring grandma.
Yeah, I was
too.
going to say, do you want to talk about our family trip to
No, absolutely not.
the Paris
But it makes
Museum?
for, I mean, the commentary really, if you're looking at this art exhibit from the perspective of confronting the body, the possibilities become much bigger than the performative space in which all of these things come out. And so all of the kind of social relations, familial relations, stranger relations, may make this a far more interesting thing. And then, of course, at the end of all of this, which makes this really interesting, at the end of all of this, ... is the art, which is the exhibit that you're gonna go through. And ultimately, slyly, I think, behind all of this is the question if in fact what we're doing is objectifying, we're using objects to symbolize, to signify something, right? And we tend to interact with that signification externally, right? It's an exogenous experience. We project meaning onto things, and then we make a lot of money from it. If you cozy up to the right art critic, and there's a whole market for this stuff. But what happens if, in fact, that performative, that signification, that art isn't exogenous, but becomes endogenous? You're the art. And indeed, there's something
I
in
was
the
going to say,
museum,
I think the art is actually the people walking in
or
and
their interaction.
their interaction and the whole thing.
Now, which would make for much better art if you also had to sign a form that says, look, you're going to be recorded, and you're actually making art, and you consent to be part of the art. And so part of the art are these objects, right, that either relate to the body or whatever it is that they've curated together. But the other part of the art is more kinetic, and then memorialized kineticism. That is, they'll take your picture of you reacting to the art, and that is the art itself. And you yourself, in relation to that art, is art. And in a sense, I think that makes for a very interesting kind of conception, and even better because it gets to the notion of stripping away all of the shielding that we have, which is a much nicer take on what passes for social and international relations today, which is all a series of acts of enveloping kernels of even conceptual realities of the essence of ourselves, our corporeal selves, and so casting it in other things, in layer after layer after layer, that in fact, and this may be the point, that the body itself, the idea of the body becomes neurotic, but the body itself gets lost in the neurosis of the body, which is now always so encased that you never see it. And then, in fact, when you do, it's like watching a horror movie. You go, oh my God, what is this? And you have no idea what to do with it.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder if,
unless of course you're a German landlord, in which case you know precisely what you're going to do with your body.
Yes, you will sunbathe, and perhaps you might videotape it for video.
Yeah, but that's
you
the
might
thing.
record it for yourself.
He was actually the innocent party in all of this, because the man, and apparently he did this all right. So he's wearing his bathrobe up and down the common stairways. He found a fairly secluded spot, hopefully with some sun or whatever his requirements were, for hanging out au natural. It's way too cold for me to even think about doing that in Germany. I have no idea. They've got much more body stamina than I do. But anyway, so he can deal with the weather there. And, you know, usually I'm assuming that it's not either raining, sleeting, or snowing, but he may have had that may be cool. And then we can talk about the body in relation to nature, feeling that sleet or those hail just come on to you and experiencing life that way. But, you know, he hit all of this. The artistry in that, because this is also art, is even the whiff that this is a possibility produce the most interestingly and kind of pathetic, I was going to say bizarre, but it isn't bizarre, it's kind of just pathetic, response on the part of the office workers, and so there's commentary here. One is, of course, the infatuation with the body. And my guess is that the landlord, as beautiful as he or she probably is probably not a candidate for, in accordance with whatever standard
model.
Yeah, but don't even. We'll have to do a podcast on models. I think that they all look like they need medical intervention. And if you strip them, that would be, oh my God, but you're brilliant. That would be fabulous, right? And so you put models up. Models have become, it's a segue, but let's make the point. Models have become clothing hangers. And in fact, if you actually, and so they disappear. It reminds me of the idea of art in the late antique, where the person, the way in which you embodied a person was effectively to disembody, because what you were doing was, in a sense, to paint their inner selves, the soul. And so the only thing that was left was the clothing, with which then effectively defined this body that, if you looked at it from an artistic perspective, had no bones, no mass, no nothing. And in a sense, what we've done is we've gone back to this bizarrely kind of spiritual notion that the only way to represent the body is to make the body absent to the extent possible without killing the body. Right. And so of course, the reason for doing that, which makes perfect sense in markets for clothing, is that you want the body to disappear, because the only thing that you're trying to get people to blow their cash on are the clothes.
Right.
Right. So it makes sense that you don't want the bodies. And of course, the tragedies that are produced and the issues are well known. But on the other hand, we want that. We don't want to see people, unless, of course, it's modeling underwear, I guess, in which case we want to see virtually everything.
Yes,
Actually,
we want to see
everything.
everything about that.
Right. But then we're not selling the clothing, we're selling a sexual experience.
Right. That we're selling sexual. In that case, the body becomes sexuality. It embodies.
Ooh, like our German landlord.
An idea. Yeah.
So the German landlord is an idea of sexuality, or even worse, because what's going on in the art exhibit is completely artificial, and we all know this is kind of a safe space. It costs you money to make sure that it is, and everyone has got your welfare, and then you can at least pretend to have some kind of esoteric conversation about your experience, when the only thing you're really thinking about is, boy, that lady looked fill in the blank, or wow,
or
look at
boy,
that guy, or I can't believe
that's
this
really out there.
dude stripped his, stripped off the walk, blah blah blah.
Did they clean themselves?
Right. So it's a protective safe space. So you're really not confronting your body at all, because it's a safe space. The landlord, oh my God, right? He's being naughty.
Right. How dare he? Outside of his own home.
Oh no. We're not condemning him. If we'd have condemned him,
I mean,
would we have tried
sarcasm.
to jump out the window to take a peek? And notice, it didn't matter what he looked like, whether he was our 21st century conception of Adonis, or equal female or non-male or female beauty. For all we know, this person was very old, or but does not conform to whatever ideal we are meant to digest and internalize. But it didn't matter.
Yeah.
It's the idea, oh my God, there's a naked body out there, and we can't look. Right. And in a sense, what it really brings home is the way in which we've really inverted ourselves in a lot of ways, that we've lost the body by encasing it and by building these extraordinary social and political constructs around the encasing of the body, everything from class to ethnicity to position to status to age. All of that is now encased. We don't even look at the body anymore. What we do is the body becomes a hanger for all kinds of social signaling, and that ultimately the body becomes irrelevant.
I think it's so funny that we're worried about AI and because it's based on coding and it can't really question itself, but we've basically programmed ourselves to think along certain lines, and most don't stop and re-question or think about the schemas that have been built up over time in their head. So how
or as they say in Europe, go! That was a naughty greater point, because in effect, right, all of this whining that we are having, and not just in liberal democratic states, in Marxist-Leninist states as well, and in developing states, all this whining about the evils of the AI and blah, blah, blah. We keep forgetting that all of this stuff is really is nothing more than an extension of the way in which we've
We
programmed
think this is
ourselves.
how, yes.
And one of the biggest examples, or one of the most telling examples of the way in which we programmed ourselves, certainly in our social relations, and even in the way we program ourselves in our relations with ourselves, is through these clothing rituals.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which which reminds me, there's a sale for
I was about to be like, yeah, where?
my God. Well, you know, we should do part 2 of this after the Met Gala.
Oh, yes.
Because
Yes.
there's the spectrum. We're looking at one end of the spectrum, which is, oh my God, what happens if we're left with nothing but our bodies, unphotoshopped, right? We're left with nothing of our bodies and ourselves in whatever stage in life we are. The other end of the spectrum is that bizarre ritual. I guess society is very indulgent, especially for what passes for its creative types from epic to epic. But apparently now we've been reduced to having our artistic vanguard essentially reduced to the, I don't know how to describe them without being offensive, so I won't describe them at all. A collection, a motley collection of human beings who are, and not in and of themselves, God bless them, but who are supporting an industry of creative types, the purpose of which is then to encase them in signification and statements, so that you don't have to read, you don't have to write, you don't even have to be in your body. You just have to be a corporeal mass, like those genetically engineered chicken masses that they're now preparing in lieu of actually a living creature like a chicken. That's all you are. You're just this mass of flesh that
mechanically separated chicken parts,
and enhanced thanks to the miracle of very, very expensive plastic surgeons with their array of with their toolkits, right? So I mean, even if you confront yourself with your body is not yourself at this stage, at this area of the spectrum, and then you're like this blob onto which we're going to encode, right, the leading vanguard statements, ideas, representations,
morals
of the social order.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So in effect, well oh my
we
God,
are AI.
I love people. But it's just so much fun, because in a sense, what we wind up seeing then is the way in which our society is not just encoded, not on our bodies, not in our bodies, but literally on our bodies through all of these things.
Yeah, this is our infrastructure.
But how they replicate, right? But it's even worse, right? Because technology has now enhanced all of this stuff.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say. This is just like super human mind. Like, this is just super social structure.
Well, no, you're way ahead of me. You're way ahead. I'm low tech here. I'm saying that it's not just the clothing, it's the lights, it's your phones, your electronic equipment around you, right? Much less what you're talking about, which is like, oh my God, you're going to blow my mind. Right. And all of this we can extract from this kind of fun exhibit. I literally am just seconds from getting a plane ticket to Paris and then taking a train down to Lyon.
I really want to
trip for 90 minutes and enjoy what may or may not be an interesting exhibit, just to experience the possibility of in a non-naturalist space.
Well, the first half lasts until July 9th.
Oh my God, all right, everyone, get your tickets now. Make sure you have your passports if you're not in France. Mm-hmm. And go experience this thing. Or if you happen to be a landlord, find a quiet spot somewhere in your building, take it all off, and then watch what happens with your tenants.
Yeah, do some sunbathing. Everybody needs a little vitamin D.
Everyone needs a little vitamin D, and so much for our window uh, on society, and in a way a kind of sad one, because of the way in which this is at the high end, of course, is very expensive, but it really is a very, very nice way, not just of encoding, but of managing social relations by the rules that we have for clothing. And we've seen this. I mean, you can then tease this out to the murders for high-end sneakers,
Oh, yeah.
the bullying and social ostracization among children,
Yeah.
depending on on what you're wearing,
Oy.
the decisions for promotion and the like.
Yeah,
And it's not
absolutely.
just clothing, it's hairdos, and everything else. It's all this social, the
Appearance. Yeah.
signification, right? All grounded in the body. And I'll end with this as my last wolf. All and again, I would laugh myself silly at this point, all overlain on a society that absolutely positively in its aspirational state says that it's not about who you are or how you appear or how you present yourself. It's about your merit. Well, yes. Woof, woof.
Bark, bark, let it all hang out. Thanks, everyone. We'll catch you next time.